Alright, so welcome back into another Dragon Ball Super card game video, and today we're going to go through set 13 Bardock, and this is going to be kind of a complete breakdown of everything when it comes down to set 13 Bardock. A couple things, this is technically part 1, so if you saw the thumbnail that said gameplay, the second part is going to have gameplay. I'm either going to do a commentary or just a regular gameplay talking about my moves and etc. But this will include a good breakdown and analysis of what the engine wants to do, what cards are involved, the leader, matchup knowledge, a little bit of that, and as well as a deck list. If I miss anything or if I get anything wrong, please let me know in the comments below. This one's a little bit lengthy, so I apologize for that. I will be doing other set 13 leaders and as well as decks, pretty much all the leaders if I can, towards the end of the month. So all throughout this week, next week, etc. are all going to be set 13 decks. I'm just going to skip over the Evo booster stuff since most of that stuff people already kind of know. There's a couple of things like green, yellow Broly, like the older yellow Broly that I wanted to do, Android 18 mil that I have a list for that I was supposed to play this last weekend. Oh well, if you guys want to see that, let me know in the comments below as well. For anything else, there are timestamps if you want to skip through, and if not, awesome. Okay, let's get right into it. So, like I said, this is kind of a breakdown and an explanation of everything when it comes down to set 13 Bardock. The first thing I want to go through is the leader, and this is a cool leader, not only for the art, because the art just looks good, but overall just the concept of really being within its archetype, and as well as supporting other things like the Red Saiyan. So the first thing that you see on his front side is that you can include extra cards at any cost 2 or more in your deck. I haven't really found the significance for that, especially if you're playing red, but maybe it's like King Vegeta or Young Raiders or something like that. I don't know, because when you really go down to it, Young Invaders is the first thing that you kind of think about. But if you're playing King Vegeta, that's going to be the thing. But I mean, I don't know, really. Maybe something like Combination Attack or Mafuba. I can't really think of too many things like Tyranny's Cost, the Reparo. I actually don't know. But either way, oh, maybe Familiar Bonds. That's probably the best thing that they wanted to avoid, I think. All right, going back to the leader. So all your red Bardock crew in their battle area with energy cost of 1 have their energy increased by 2. So that's the permanent whenever any of the Bardock's crew cards are on the field, and it has their energy cost basically to 3. And it has it for the front side and the back side. I think the significance for this is to kind of get around board clears, and as well as things like Secret Identity Mass Saiyan, and as well as Dormant Potential, right? So instead of Dormant Potential KOing pretty much everything, it KOs pretty much nothing, almost. And of course, this applies to the Bardock's crew only, so if you're playing like Red Saiyans, like Rushing Warrior Pan, it doesn't apply to. No significance for Successor, because that's only going to be in green and yellow, and not really much else. But I think it's really just for board clears and to kind of get around the things that add up to a certain cost, or chooses 1-drops that can attack, right? And also gets around the 2-drop Goku, the blue one that says 2 costs or less can attack. Anyway, when the card attacks, you can choose up to 1 Red Saiyan with energy cost of 1, original energy cost of 1 in your hand, and play it. So it has to be energy cost 1. If you have a card that's on the field, you can't reduce it in your hand and then play it. So it has to have that. That's really big and important to understand when going forward for the card design for this leader. This is really cool because most of the Bardock's crew draws you a card, or it gets you an additional attacker that does something else, and we'll kind of get into that as well. But the Awaken is that the 4 or less life, or if you have 3 or more mono red Saiyan cards in play. So it doesn't have to be Bardock's crew, it can be any red Saiyans, and you can draw 1 and add up to cards in your life until you have 4 left in life, and flip it over. So the whole thing about this is that you want to Awaken turn 2 pretty much every single time. I don't really know if there's a time that you don't want to, because you're gonna be able to do it, and we'll talk about the plays, but generally it's going to be 1 on turn 1, and then you swing on turn 2, you play another for 1 energy, or you can play the 2 energy for 2 and then Awaken, swing, play another one, which we'll talk about which ones actually do the effects. Awaken, draw as many cards as you can, go for double strike afterwards, and then now your super combos are live to go and do some more pressure. I think overall it's a pretty cool concept. It reminds you of Xeno Goku, but just in red. And just overall, the leader is not that bad. It doesn't do amazing things, but it is in aggro in essence, and it is what red wants to do basically. The backside does have double strike. It has the same permanent, and when it attacks, it draws this time. The front side doesn't, which is why you want to awaken as soon as possible. And then you also play up to 1 red Saiyan energy cost of 1 in your hand to play it. So not Bardock's crew, but red Saiyan. Very, very important. Now we move on to the engine. We have Chain Attack Tora, Chain Attack Fasha, and Chain Attack Shigesh. So all of these have Bond 3, which basically means if you have it on the field with 2 other red Saiyan cards, so if you have Chain Attack Tora and then 2 Chain Attack Fasha, you meet the Bond 3, and then same thing for everything else, right? And what's cool is that these guys, I think except for Chain Attack Tora. Tora is not the one that I play. He is a blocker, which is nice, but he doesn't have the 11k here or the 10k here. These guys get the 10k and 11k with the Bond 3. Interesting numbers, but I guess that's just for balance. But they have some autos over here, and as well as a double strike over here. And this one says you can add up to 1 red Bardock's crew and energy cost of 5 or less that isn't a Tora card in your drop area and add it, and you can't play copies of this for the turn. It's really nice in case something gets removed, like the 5-drop Bardock, but I haven't really seen it come up. Like the games end so quickly with this deck, I just don't see it happening where this is really effective. But it is nice to have a free blocker, even though you have to have the Bond 3, which I don't really like. But oh well, because if they remove one of them, now you can't block, right? It's not that great. I could be reading that incorrectly. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what it is though. The Bond 3 is a requirement to have blocker, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's just weird how they ordered it. If they ordered it like down here, like they did with unique with the keyword, I would imagine that it's not that. Anyway, so this chick is pretty important because it gets all of your Bardock's crew pizzas. And she is a 15k attacker when she does have the Bond 3. And when it's played, you look at the top 5, add a Bardock's crew, or a unison card, a specified cost of 2 among them, and then shuffle your deck. So it's nice to have this for any of these guys, or the Bardocks, or anything else that you might have in the future. But it is really good for consistency, and pretty much the thing that you want to play turn 1 or turn 2, either one, just so you can get your stuff and make sure that you're playing exactly what you need to play. I don't like the fact that it has the cost of 2, but the newest one out of set 13, the red unison, is going to be the reason for that. I play the King Piccolo Jr. in this one, so I can't really say too much about the specified cost of 2. I don't like playing 2. That's just me, because you want to awaken turn 2 anyway. So if you're playing 1 turn 1 and then swinging playing another, you can't awaken. So if you're playing turn 2 a unison, it's not going to be that great. I think turn 3 is fine, and we'll kind of talk about that as well. But the last one is just a double striker for 15k, which is just nice. That it does come up quite a lot because your leader's a double strike, and then we play a lot of other double striker things in concept as well. But let's go to the other part of the engine, the Bardock stuff. The Chain Attack Bardock is a promo card. I think it is a TP promo card. I'm like 90% sure that it is. I should have verified that. But this is a Bond 3. It gets 11k, just like the Fasha, I do believe, in critical, which is nice. Really, really nice. But his auto is just broken. Well, maybe not broken, but very useful. When it attacks, it chooses up to 1 opponent's battle cards and it gets negative 4k for each red Saiyan and or Bardock's crew in your battle area. So basically, if you have a whole set, which by turn 3 or 4, you're basically gonna have 3 to 4 red Saiyans on the board. You play this guy for free with your leader, you swing, and now you get to remove what? It was the math, 4, 8, 12, 16k worth of cards, basically, including himself. So that's actually really, really useful for removal. Has it come up? Not very much. Again, the games kind of play out really quickly with this deck. You either lose really quickly or you win really quickly. But it is nice to get rid of other blockers, and as well as like the mirror match. Like if you have this one against the mirror match, you're going to be removing whatever you want, depending on if they have bond or not, basically. And then the 1-drop Bardock. So this guy is really, really good. So The reason why he's really good is that if you play him, I would say turn 2. Turn 2 is pretty much the play, in my opinion, because you need the 2 energy. So what he says is that when you swing, you take a card out of your life, you can choose up to one, and then it gives 15k for the battle, right? The other auto is that if your leader card is a red sand, it doesn't have to be Bardock. If you have 2 more energy when this card deals damage by attacking, choose or switch this card to active mode and look at the top 7, and then you get to play up to 1 Bardock's crew, energy cost of 1 afterwards. So not only that it helps you awaken, and it gets a card out of your life to add to your hand when it does damage, which most of the time it does. Like, they're going to be unawakened, they're going to be a 10k leader, you're swinging for 15k, you have to waste a 10k or 2 cards in order to get it out of it, which they're not, because it's not critical. They almost always take it. You play out the 1 drop, you can play out a fascia, you can play out a draw. I don't think I have it on here, but I'm missing the other 1 drop, which is Borgos, which just draws a card and is a 15k, which is very nice. So the fascia or the Borgos is going to be the one for that. The card that you can't play with a skill can't attack for the turn, which is not that big of a deal. And the other thing of this is that these 2 are going to be targets for the 5 drop, which is basically what you want to play turn 2. So he has unique barrier. You evolve from 1 cost for 1, and then when this card is played, you look at the top 7 of your deck and you place 1 of the Bardock's crew into your drop and then shuffle. Then when it attacks, you play up to 1 from your drop, and then you choose up to 2 of your red sands other than this card, and then it gains 15k for the turn. Really good card. Not only because it has a 20k barrier, but because it adds to the aggression that you have already, right? And you can not only play another one of these for the leader effect. Usually I pay 1 for the Bardock and then I swing, or you can swing with the leader, pay 1, and then evolve on the other, swing with this, add this guy or pump up this guy, swing with him for another life. You go to 3 because you're going to be awakened at that point, and then now the 1 drop King's imposing force or whatever it is now live at 3 life. Or you can play that new red extra card out of Evo booster. Another story, really. And then you can boost up any of the other Bardock's crew for 20k double strike or 20k single strike, right? Now the thing about this where it comes in is the support, right? There's a lot of support for red Saiyans and just red in general. I'm trying to make sure I didn't put any of the 2 cost or more extra cards, because you can't even really play those, but there's some cards I didn't mention for this, and that was pretty much made for the engine. And the reason why I didn't talk about that is because I didn't put it in the list. So the cool thing about this leader is that, like I said, like all the support and all the things that you can do. So the 1 drop Goku here, which is the SR out of set 13, he draws 1 card, and if he has Bond 3, which you're gonna have to, you're basically want to every time. It is no requirement for Bond 3. If your opponent's energy is 3 or more, it gains 21,000 power until the end or the start of your next phase. So basically, you swing with it for 25k, and it's still a 25k. It's just sitting there, and it's a 1 drop, so you can just play another one if they just remove it. It doesn't get the permanent where it boosts the energy costs, so it's still a 1 drop. They can easily remove it, but it is still really cool to see a 25k swing. And because we played Fearless Pan, now it's a 30k 30k double striker. Yamcha is really cool with Pan, and as well as another 15k attacker, plus it helps you for removal. I just didn't find the room for it. Saying Kaba is nice, but I don't really think you take life outside of the leader effect, and as well as something like Bardock. So I don't really see this deck taking life as much as you might think. Rushing Warrior Pan is really good in tandem with the 5 drop Bardock, just 15 or 5k, and as well as draw a card. If you can find room for Rushing Warrior Pan, I think that's the play. I just didn't find room for it. That's just me and my deck building habits, basically. Intensifying Power Trunks is really good with Chain Attack Trunks. I made a Chain Attack Zeno version of this deck. It was really fun, just not very consistent. Like, there's not really a way to search out Zeno, and when you have a Zeno in your hand, and you have to kind of play out, like, the whole concept was to play the King Vegito, make them take a lot of life, get to 6 markers, and then Chain Attack Zeno on turn 3, and then use the 6 markers effect for King Piccolo, minus it, play out your your fearless Pan or anything else, and then go from there. That's basically what the concept was, because now you have 2 barrier blockers and as well as double striking going to them while they have 5 cards in hand. Strategies is really good going into this next format, only because if people are playing red, they can't really touch you. Same thing goes for King Vegeta. That's the next video or next section that I wanted to do. But just general and good in general. Violent Rays and King Imposing Presence. So Violent Rays is just really good in any format. Honestly, it's just a really good red staple at this point. But King Vegeta's Imposing Presence. I'm gonna go over this in the King Vegeta deck breakdown, or the engine breakdown that I'm gonna do. Basically what it says is that if your leader is a red model Saiyan, you may choose the attacking card in going barrier, and minus 10k, and every time they attack they have to minus 5 every time they attack. It's really crazy. It's really good. So every time they swing, it's basically a combo, a 0-5 out of their hand. And then if your life is at 3 or less, you can activate this counter effect by paying 1 card out of your hand. So you're gonna be at a low life anyway because of leader effect, and when it comes down to it, you can just make them minus every single time and play this for free. It's gonna be a red staple, calling it now. It's really obvious of how good that card is. Topo's good. It's just that you're not really using, you're going to be using all your energy most likely in this deck, and if you don't, you're probably losing, or you're playing it too slow, which if you're playing against a deck that makes you play slow, you're probably losing. So I don't know, Topo is kind of weird. I like it for Fearless Pan as well as just making them pay for swinging. I don't know. Kaioken is really good for barrier removal and just removal in general, like slower games. I played it in original list, but I think it's better in like King Vegeta. Mercenary Tao is awesome, but it's more of a -1 versus a swing that is good. So if you fit it into this deck with Fearless Pan, it's not gonna be that great, or it's not gonna be that bad, because now it's a 20k double striker critical, which is very nice to have. Invasion of the Bardock's crew is the top 7, where you can play up to 1 of the Bardock's crew and you can also 1 among them. I think that other Bardock's crew, like the 1-drop Bardock, the 5-drop as well, and as well as the Fascia, are kind of enough. I think if you play this card, you are not doing it wrong. I love it. Don't even worry about it. And then you can choose up to 2 of your Bardock's crew in different names in your drop when you cost 1, and then playing when that skill's negated. So if you're basically comboing off cards like the Bardock's crew cards, then you can just play this for 1 the next turn and then awaken, because you're going to be swinging with the leader. You're going to play out 1 and you play this, you're going to play out 2 more, and now you can awaken, right? So that's kind of the concept there. And then Heartfire Plea is kind of cool, I would say, because turn 3 you can play this guy and go to 25k. You can awaken right after because you can have that bond 3 anyway. So I mean, Heartfire Plea is definitely cool. I would say definitely play him if you can. Giant's Force, I'll explain in the deck list. Piccolo Jr. is really cool because the leader effect, it makes everybody a 3k or 3 costs, and you can use the negative or the -2 to choose one of your battle cards and then KO everything. Plus it's nice to have the counter skill, which they're going to be countering, just going to happen with this deck, and then KO something. And then of course the draw 1 is really good in this deck as well, because your front side doesn't draw, and if you want to play a little bit of a slower game, which I'm just not about, this is the perfect unison for it, because Fascia can find it as well. The other perfect one is the Mass Saiyan here, where the permanent says during your turn gets 10k for each red Saiyan in your battle area. So it's a 20k, it's a 18k, whatever, right? And you can place up to 1 of your red Saiyan cards in each cost of 1 in your drop area into your deck, and then draw 1. I don't really like that because Bardock likes to play things from the drop, so just not my thing. It's cool to draw 1, I guess, for nothing, and then draw 1 and choose 1 or all of your red Saiyans, energy cost of 3 or less, and they gain 5k power for the turn. Really cool when you're comboing it with Fearless Pan. But the thing is that these 2 unisons, and as well as this one, doesn't really answer Dark Power, which is a big annoyance for this deck. So King Piccolo Jr., the turn 1 King Piccolo, or the turn 2, is going to be the play instead for me, because I don't want to lose to something that I'm going to have to pitch cards over and over for, and I don't really have options in the current deck to get rid of it. Because when you look at everything other than the 1-drop chain attack Bardock, which you're gonna have to either play or play it for free for your leader, which you're not going to do if they have dark power. I'd rather have a consistent answer for that every single time and take advantage of the -6, which is going to be pretty easy to do. And then Giant Force Lord Slug is just another option. It's nice to have a minus 10k for no barrier, and as well as burning a life if you get to that point, which is really nice to see. And then also, of course, these three are searchable by fascia, so consider these in your deck list. I would say King Piccolo, the new ruler, is amazing. I don't know why I didn't fit this into the deck list, but fit it in there if you can. Just add it like as a 2-of, because now King Piccolo can get that guy out, and I'm pretty sure let's look. Okay, I did fit it in. Okay, that was the last minute change. I'm sorry. That was this is a perfect card for this deck that we're going to take a look at. And then Wolfang Fist is amazing, not only for removal and just to prevent an attack. I just don't see it being played in this deck, I think, for me. And then Frieza's Death Ball is really, really good for going through game, and as well as preventing another attack. So if you look at the list that I personally like, you know, this is more of an alpha list. This is the deck list I've been testing for the last week or so. And honestly, you know, when you look at it, it's basically all the conceptual things that I've mentioned. You know, Raditz is live turn 2, which is pretty funny. We have the expensive ass Super Saiyan 4 Bardock as well. And he's really, really good to take them from 3 to 1 or 3 to 2, and then you just go in with the Fearless Pan, and as well as anything else that has double strike. We do play 3 of the Violent Rays for defense, as well as the 3 of the Imposing Presence for King Vegeta. These are really, 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 really good because you're only going to have 1 or 2 energy open at any time. So I would recommend to play those. It's really good for any matchup. Like, I can't really think of any matchup that these don't really come up in. And then Broly, Crown of Retribution. So there are a number of decks that I've been running into that just keep up 2 energy. And the thing about it is that if you just swing and you have this in your hand and you just play it, now you have a lot of info in order to play your next things. You can pop a super combo turn 3 if you're trying to go for a game as well. You can swing with this. It's not going to be much of an attacker because it's only a 4k. It's going to be a 9k with Fearless Pan, and then you can just make sure to pitch any of the super combos and just get info. That's just really what it is. This is just a really good card. You can take it out, you can put in the stuff that I've been talking about before. And then again, the whole concept of this deck is playing the Piccolo turn 1, getting a 1-drop out on the swing, and then the upcoming turns making sure that they take life, which they're either going to do by themselves or they're going to do it through Bardock, etc. Turn 2 have the 2 out for the Mono Saiyans, etc., which we'll kind of talk about here actually. So the mulligan, this is the cards that you want. Do the things that I've talked about before. You want to play this turn 1, to play this turn 2 with this guy, and then now you have the Awakening after playing 1 for free on swing. And then if you don't go first, it's not that big of a deal. You can still do this play and just awaken turn 3. And then as much as you can, if you can put 1 underneath, or if they add a card for life, or if they crit 1, if they take a life with a 1-drop or the leader effect, whatever it may be, definitely remind yourself to use the auto to add a marker. That includes the attacks that you swing with, and then that they add 1 as well. And also like Power Burst or Actor Image Attack, that type of thing. Turn 1 is fascia into all the things that I was talking about, so just so you can get your pieces. They're really not going to do too much for you until you have bond 3. Turn 2 is the stuff that I was talking about before. Yamcha is really good to establish turn 2 on their turn, and for anything that they play, so that way when you come up to turn 3, or that's supposed to be turn 3, it is turn 3, King Piccolo comes out, where you're gonna have 3 or more markers for Piccolo Jr. And it's funny because they're not going to be swinging at your leader. They're going to be swinging at the King Piccolo for whatever reason. And if they don't swing at the King Piccolo and they're smart enough to swing at your leader, then you get to punish them with King Piccolo afterwards. Anyway, you play the King Piccolo new ruler. He's a 20k double striker. You play the Fearless Pain for 3, and then if you have it perfectly aligned up, as in they don't swing at your leader, your unison at all, and they take life on their turn, then you have 6 markers on turn 3, which it's 2 every turn. So 1 for playing it, 1 for the +1, 1 for them taking a life on their turn, 2 more on turn 2, and then 2 more or 1 more on turn 3. which is basically what it is. It's going to be 6, you minus 6, and I've gotten to a point where I had 3 Fearless Pans on the field. If I can get some gameplay on that, I wish I was recording on that, then I will do that. And then now you have 3 barrier blockers, etc. And even if they dormant, now you have some protection, and yet, well, you also have imposing presence as well for any of their attacks. And then of course Bardock is exactly what I was saying. If they're at 3, you just overwhelm, you swing, there's 1, they go to 2, and then now you have exactly what you need. Now let's talk about matchup spread, which is kind of iffy. This is not like this is not an all be all. You know, I've played the deck against a lot of different decks in this last couple weeks, but so I don't really know too much. But this is my proposed matchup list, right? And a couple things like Topo and Hatchiyak, those are pretty obvious, right? Like you have to deal with their Unison here. You have to play around Lychee over here, which is why I think the other Unisons are a little bit better, but I don't think people are really playing Hatchiyak. These are just really just to understand, you know, their effects are really terrible for this deck. And then King Vegeta is really annoying because they minus literally everything, and you crit every turn. It is your turn because of King Vegeta. King Vegeta is going to be really annoying going into the next format. I don't know if it's going to be super good, but it's very annoying. I don't think it's really good for this deck. Frieza, Baby, and Broly all have different things where, you know, Frieza says no to everything, Baby says no in a different way, and it has bodies that you can't really protect against. And then Broly is just sort of like, their turn 3 should be better than your turn 3 because they're milling, or they're not milling, they're warping cards out of your hand, and as well as putting on aggression that has critical, which you can't really defend against. These are really difficult in my experience. If anybody has a better experience, then let me know. The 50-50s come down to these guys. Kai is quite aggro depending on how you play it. I played it a few times before, and just in general, I feel like that's going to be a 50-50. Same thing for launch. King Piccolo is interesting. They go down to 6, and you want to double strike them like 10 times turn 3. So I'd imagine it's not too bad. I played it a couple of times now, and at least with this deck. And I would say, depending on the player, if they defend correctly, because if they violent raise after you feel this pan, I would say that's probably one of the plays to do. And if they're playing imposing force as well, or opposing presence as well, that's gonna be kind of a deterrent. Plus they have barrier blockers, plus they have a huge hand most of the time, so it's gonna be really difficult for these matchups. These are a bit more conceptual. Like I would imagine that yes, Dark Broly has 30k blockers and 30k attackers, but depending on the support that the player is going to be playing coming up in set 13, I think this might be a little bit over here. I would say you can probably end the game a lot quicker than they're trying to. A lot of Dark Broly players are playing Heartfelt, the 60 or the new red Broly as well, and those are kind of pretty tough to get around. But because you're playing Violent Rays, I think you're going to be in a better spot than they are. So at least they can't attack, and you can just swing over and over again and just hold 1 energy for Violent Rays. And then Vegex, in my experience, as I played Vegex so much at this point, I think this is going to be okay matchup. Same thing for Turtles. They have Dormant, but it's not that big of a deal. And these guys are a little bit longer, depending on their build. The Sin Aggro one, maybe not. But they try to set up a little too much, and in my experience, I just kind of ran them over. Not really much to it. Okay, that's it. That is it. I talked for a good 30 minutes. If you remember my deck engines videos from before, that's basically what I did. I just talked about deck engines and did as much as analysis as I could, and just a bit of a discussion for it. And honestly, this is the whole thing. I really want to get back to that as well. If you ever want to catch me playing set 13 in the coming weeks, please follow me on Twitch, which I'll put here if I can. If not, this is going to be in the description. If you have any questions or anything that you think that you've been building is good for the deck, please let me know in the comments below. Other than that, I will see you in the next one.